Oh, hello. Okay, Thursday, 3 o'clock. Okay, I saw that the audio's coming through. I feel like somebody is hitting the like button. So cool. Hi. Um, okay, let's just kind of get into it. What I would like to be going over today is I love seeing the little animation. That's hilarious. Um, whoa, camera, figure that out. Okay. Um, so I have finally successfully gone through the painful process of first connecting to the Instagram Graph API and using that to be able to, in theory, do basically anything that the Instagram API lets you do. What I primarily needed and wanted it for was the ability to automatically reply to direct messages on Instagram. Um, and so we'll kind of go through that. And I'm basically going to like walk through this process from scratch. And I have intentionally not really done that or planned it since I have done this whole thing. And part of the reason for doing that is to show that even though I have already done this and I understand it and it is working in a different project, I'm still going to clumsily fall apart through this whole thing. Um, and so this live version is kind of the like frustratingly long version of this, but really the other purpose of it is for me to just kind of like when I'm done, in theory, I have successfully gone through all the steps and this has all been fully recorded and I can look back and go, oh, great, that's everything. And then I'll be able to take that, craft a more structured blog post, which I can then craft into like a far more condensed video because I think in reality, with the correct editing and like doing things in the right order, this should be like a 5 minute process and you would just understand everything. And I wish I had that because this has been like a 5 month process and it's not even fully done yet. So without further ado, we'll leave that guy open. Goodbye, goodbye. And let's swap. Yeah, so I was in a circle so that I could be a circle down here. That's that. Okay, so we will start with the Facebook app side of things, and pretty quickly we will need our own application to kind of like funnel into this mix. And I hopefully don't have new things that cause problems along the way, but we'll see what happens. So yeah, you like whatever developersfacebook.com, create an app. That's all. Let's not get funky about it. We'll call this DevTales. This can be my actual DevTales email. That's fine. Use case. Oh my. I already even hear coming through here. You're like, I don't really know. This sounds like the most likely answer, but I believe the correct answer is other. And then again, you're like, okay, consumer or business? And you're like, I don't really know. But here you can see Instagram. And you're like, okay, that's probably the one. Business portfolio. I already had this selected, but let's select it again. And hopefully that doesn't actually show. Wonderful. Everyone stop trying to show my information, please. It's so dangerous streaming. And prepare yourself because everything takes for fucking ever here. Anyways, so now we have ourselves an app, and then they've got this concept of like products that you then add to your app, which now that I kind of understand makes sense, but at first you're just like, huh? Um, And so what we're going to start with is Instagram, but already like it's so confusing because you're like, well, yeah, Instagram's this thing that I want to deal with. So you're like, let's just set that up. But what we'll see in the end is this is actually the one that we end up using for certain reasons, and I'll explain why. But if a person like me comes in here and is like, I am trying to do things on Instagram, logically, this is the one that I would click. And guess what? That's the one that I started with. So we set that up. And we're like, cool, Instagram API set up with Instagram business login. Great. That sounds like exactly what we want. And I'm just kind of like describe some of the stuff now that I know a little bit. Like what's described makes slightly more sense. It's like begin using the Instagram API to create, publish, manage content. Sounds great, like exactly what I want. Interact with users by sending and receiving messages. Perfect. That's exactly what I want. Maybe we'll open up that learn more. It's like here, if you want to be able to track hashtags and insights, switch to the API setup with Facebook login. And you're like, what? What does that even mean? Where is that coming from? Who knows? Let's take a quick peek at this learn more. Oh gosh, yep, here it is. Immediate, just like so much information that you don't know what to do with. You're like, okay, cool. I can use the Instagram API with Instagram login, blah, 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 to access app data from the Instagram business, create accounts, cool, app, send, receive messages. Okay, yep, that's what I want. Blah, 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 requires Instagram business or creator account. Okay, so that's option one. Then we can use it with Facebook login. And then that's a whole developers Facebook Instagram API. It's a whole thing linked to a Facebook page. The API can then be used to get and publish their media, manage, reply to comments, identify media where they've been not mentioned, blah, blah, blah. So pretty much the same stuff, except now it's through Facebook login. This one I haven't even done yet, and now that I see it, I'm like, is that the one that I actually wanted? Messenger API support, also known as Instagram messaging API in our developer policies, whatever that means. Instagram professionals to use your app to manage the Instagram and Facebook page messages using one platform. The API can be used to send and receive messages from Instagram or Facebook. Okay, out of just like vague, quick curiosity. Okay, yeah, no, I'm not going through that, but already, like, I have no idea which one of these is the ones that I actually want. I know what I want to do. I just want to be able to reply to DMs. But each one of these is a completely different beast. And then because there's three different options, you have to fight the documentation all along the way to be like, okay, well, is this documentation talking about this one? Or is it talking about this one? Or is it talking about this one? And then this is less relevant now, but then there's this guy in here, and then they're like, we're deprecating this thing. And you're like, what does that even mean? Is this relevant? Anyways, I will stop complaining for now and continue later. Anyways, we get an app name, an app ID, and an app secret. A maybe kind of nice thing is that you can just like immediately add your account here and get an access token that allows you to test things. I'm not really gonna do that because it's like effectively useless for needing it for anything else. But if you were just using this for yourself, you could probably just generate yourself an access token and then you can skip particularly this step here in terms of like doing the actual OAuth connection. But even like the ordering of these steps, in my opinion, is just confusing and backwards if you're like actually building a proper app. Which is fun. Like it's already throwing me off because in my mind, this is actually where I want to start is, hey, I want a person to log in with Instagram. They have to do that before I get an access token. And therefore they also need to do that before I can set up a webhook. Like starting with a webhook is an incredibly confusing place to begin. So let's see if it even lets us do that. Wonderful, it does. Okay, then we'll start here, and this will kind of like set ourselves up for what we're going to do on the app side of things. So thankfully, because I've done this, I already have a like domain that through Cloudflare tunnels sends itself back to me. Actually, redirect URL. We don't need it for the redirect, but we will need it for the webhook, so we're just going to use it anyways. The redirect, in theory, probably could be localhost, but we'll just use the tunnel anyways. And let's call this Instagram. It's the redirect. I don't know. I've called mine callback, so we'll save that. I kind of thought that would error, but it didn't. Great. Use the URL below and launch business login to learn more about capturing blah, blah, blah. So now with my new set of eyes, I'm going to try doing some stuff that they have and see what that looks like and what I learn. But now code-wise, no npx create remix, latest, probably. Slap that here. Sure, yeah. 20 minutes later. But we kind of already have it set up. So we'll want we said Instagram dot callback dex dot, nope. Make just the folder. And then I think this does need to be index. Okay, and then export a loader because this is going to be a callback that it calls. And inside here, there's going to be the request. Great, yeah, that seems like something. And so then we'll run that. It's probably going to run on the port that I don't want. Yep. So I need to change still port 8000. Sweet. So that my atom.ngram.sh is pointed to here. So now that should work. So first there's that. But then if I were to do that, it's the same exact app. And they're saying put that in a button. So let's take the home page and gut it. Out of here, please. Bye. Not quite, but good try. I just like to have this as clean as possible. We could probably make it even larger even. And instead of that, we want it to be, oh my, that is a long string, but let's pretend. Log in with Instagram. Let's just take a peek at this URL. So Instagram will authorize, enable Facebook login, whatever, force authentication, client ID. So that's the client ID. And then the redirect URI is that route that we already set up. And then the response type is code. And then the scope defines which scopes we want to apply. And let's see what they gave us. Instagram Business Basic is this, business manage messages, manage comments, and content publish. So that's kind of most things. And if we go back and do this checka, okay, you did not like that. Why? Fine. I click this guy and I think that's the correct one. So the other interesting thing, and I won't show it because I don't want to show my account, but I'm already logged into Instagram. And this was like the number one thing that irritated me once I realized it is, like I thought login with Instagram would be like, oh, you're already logged in. Like you click login with Instagram and it just goes, yep, confirmed. That's the account. Move on. But instead, like you full on need to log in again, um, which requires you to have your password and your username all ready to go. But anyways, let's do that. It's gonna take you in. Why it asks me this every single time, I don't know. But if I say not now, cool. So already there is kind of like first confusion level. You're like insufficient developer role. You're like, okay, well, what does that even mean? Well, I will tell you, and none of this tells you that. But basically, what you need is to add your Instagram user as a Instagram tester. So you add that, and out of curiosity, can I just I might need to accept it. Yeah, so it says pending. And so I'll click this link. I should be logged in as that person, hopefully. Yeah, okay. So here is my tester invite for that app. And then I accept it. And now we come back here, refresh. We will see that my status is no longer pending. I've been accepted. So I'm curious if the same link will work. Oh, it did. Look at that. So that proves that that's the like change that's needed to pass that step. And I wonder if somewhere it's kind of described. Let's see if it does. Why are you so slow, man? Okay, here. So yeah, step 4. Instagram requires successful completion of the app review process before your app can access live data. It's not super clear there, but basically that means that you need to have completed app review before you can do basically anything. And the app review process is a whole thing. So to start out, just test user stuff will get you going. And then basically, like these are the scope permissions that we had defined here. And if I hit allow, perfect. So that called back to my route, and I believe we had that logging out. I think that should be it, yeah. So we have that logging out the code in the search params, and you can see that that's the same code here. So now what is what you would ask yourself, and that's what I would ask myself as well too, is you're like, okay, cool. You gave me instructions. You said, use the anchor tag below to launch business login. To learn more about capturing access tokens, whatever, view our developer docs. Okay, so the link worked. We were able to redirect. Now let's attempt to figure this out. Let's go to ask for permission, blah, blah, blah. To ensure consistency between scope values and permission names, ensure scope values, blah, blah, blah. The new scope values are blah, 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 blah. So replace, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so if you haven't already, add the Instagram product. Done. Configure your business login settings in the Meta app dashboard. Another example of, I don't know what that even means, but whatever. Embed the business login URL, so that's the one that we just did. Get the authorization, clicks it, blah, blah, blah. Authorization window, the window opens, blah, blah, blah. So that's that same link that we already set up. It describes those few things, great, shows you the possible scope options. That's the code one, redirect URI, easy, easy, easy. Whoa, interesting. Hold on here. I would feel like such an idiot if this is true. Oh man. If this is a moment where I discover something So stupid simple. I'm gonna be mad. Okay, hold on, let me reread this. Like live experiencing real possible pain. Enable Facebook login. Can be 0 or 1 when set to 1. Allows an app user whose Facebook page is linked to the Instagram who's already logged in to log into your app. Holy shit, that's probably what I was actually looking for. When set to 0, forces an app to use login to their Instagram professional account, even if logged into Instagram. Okay, and then this guy, when set to 1, forces them to use their credentials to log into the app, even if logged into Instagram. Use in conjunction with set to 0. When set to 0 allows an app user who's logged in. That's like a weird phrasing of that, but let us try this. I'm gonna be so mad. Can we just like move the params to a something like that? Figure that out. Sure. Cool. Just makes it a little bit easier to see. And so here we can say no and yes. What happens first on this guy? Oh, I both like want the answer to this and I really don't. Spend so much time. So now it shouldn't force authentication. Okay, but it still is. Wonderful. Let me do a quick check on my phone. Okay, equally useless. I don't really even know what that parameter is changing. 0, 1. When set to 1, even if logged into Instagram. When set to 0, allows an app user who is logged into their Instagram account. And set to 0, and it is set to 0. Okay, whatever. Let's try that. You son of a... It shouldn't force authentication. But it is. Am I missing something? Like, I am logged in to my Instagram account. Oh, thank you. Did it? Oh, look at this guy. Thank you. How did you even spot that? Did it not rebuild correctly? What the hell is your problem? Okay, please hold. Like, changing that one worked. Why does changing the other one not work? So there on the bottom, it says force authentication 0. And when I click it, it swaps to a 1. It's, oh, it's just like, are you just standing there? Even though it comes in as a 0, it's basically just changing it straight to a 1. Like I am manually putting that in. Like, I wonder, and this is where like things just get real messy. Instagram API. And it works in a browser outside of the Instagram app. To force them. Oh man, don't even get me started. Like the number of like random rabbit holes that I've gone down because just that answer alone, like if that's true, then everything else is invalid that I'm about to go over. And so it's like if there's an option where setting force authentication to 0 allows a person to just be like, oh, yep, that's logged into the correct account. Okay, hold on, let me try that again on my phone, maybe. Maybe it needs to have the app. Nope. It did interestingly give me a totally different UI though. I don't know if that's helpful or relevant at all, but like that's not the same UI that I get if force authentication is set to 1. Or it is. Great. Okay. I lied. Okay. App user is interesting. Where do you? App user. You're probably right. So you're thinking if I am a mobile app, then maybe I can set force authentication to 0. That's probably right. Yeah, don't even get me started. But the funny thing is, like, at some point I Googled this and I was like, can you have it automatically just use the logged in user? And it seemed like the answer I got was no. Oh, don't get me started. Um, okay, so that one I don't really know about. This would be great if I could solve that. So I've just opened up a whole nother thread of like, how the fuck does this work? And if this would just work, all of my problems would have been solved. And this has been the entire process is like you go through and you're like, the docs say this thing. And then you're like, wow, wouldn't that be great if I could just do exactly what they say? And then they just don't work. Okay, but what I would love to see and know is, let's see if this docs is my, like, so that is all I've been looking for in my entire life is just, hey, you don't, like, you're already logged in, don't re-log in again. So if I click this, I still need to fucking log in on Instagram. Are you kidding me? If I say switch accounts and log in with this guy, like what, the login with Facebook didn't help with, oh, I guess I didn't type in a password, did I? Hold on, I need to see that flow again. Get out of here. Okay, so that's going to require my password, but this guy, no password required. When I hit switch accounts, it did. Let me just try this. And do you ask for my password? Aha, I do not. That's what I have been looking for. That's the secret sauce. Oh, it's so frustrating. Okay, well, I now have to redo something else entirely. The whole name of this video is invalid now. That's all I ever wanted. I'm just to half finish that rant essentially because it was forcing a login through Instagram and I was having problems with people not knowing their Instagram passwords. I then started a whole separate version where a person logs in with Facebook. But the permissions I needed to grant were insane. Like I had to get access to manage their business. I had to get access to their page and to their whatever. And so the onboarding process was all of a sudden like 5 steps and all of a sudden I had like way more permissions than I ever should have even requested. What I find a little bit annoying and I don't understand what's happening is maybe I can switch accounts. Like why does my DevTales account not show up from, come on. Like pretty sure my DevTales account falls under my Facebook account. So I don't know why it's not showing up here because they're in your accounts center. So I'll need to look at that and figure that out, but that's possibly a seemingly reasonable thing to figure out. Wow, that just almost derails my entire thought process. But that's great. I learned something new, and that's, I guess, why we do these videos, isn't it now? So now I'm very curious that login with Facebook is still going to give me an Instagram API token. Oh, that'll be so much easier. I hate my life. Okay, so now we have the code that they passed, and let's go back to their docs and show how good or bad they are. So like if it's successful, redirect with the code, perfect, we got that. Capture so you can exchange it for a short-lived Instagram user access token. Those codes are only valid for an hour, okay. This one just really made my day. You're like, okay, here's the redirect URI, and they're like, note, this part at the end is not part of the code. Make sure to get rid of it. Why the fuck did you put it there then? So I definitely had times where, and maybe it still shows. See, it's not even happening here. God, so I'm just roasted mad. Like I saw this and then Remix automatically pulls it out. I don't know, man. Okay, I'm just gonna ignore that. Anyways, and then there's this whole like canceled authorization. Ignore that. Exchange a code for a token. That's what we actually want to do. And so send a post request to blah, blah, blah with the following parameters, client secret, grant type authorization code, redirect, URI, blah, blah. So this is where I like to AI. Post the code to, I just like to see how much they know. And usually it's not terrible. So they said client ID, client secret, which ideally is actually secret, but that's okay. Grant type, got it. Redirect URI, just gotta be the same one. And then the code is the actual one that we got. Perfect. So now we just need to snag that code. And that's gonna be right there. That's the one. Not to be confused by the app secret, because Lord knows why would they make it that confusing. Okay, get out of here. Okay, so we copy that. I'm not going to do this the correct way, am I? No, I don't care. So we're going to slap that client secret there, and then this guy needs to be async. And now let's log that out and see what happens. Wait, why don't you learn how to load correctly? I mean, I don't want to connect my MusicTales account, but I do want to see this mechanism better. Also interesting that it takes me here. That's like the last, that's not where I want to go. What the? You, it's like it breaks itself. Like that's not, I'm not done. Why did it take me here? Surely I'm missing something. Force authentication, blah, blah, blah. Or log in with Facebook. Okay, I do that. Oh, don't. It's just the number of, I'm like, I could have built, if I had like a week's worth of time to just sit and do nothing instead of doing this bullshit, the number of things I could have done is enormous. But like here, they have lost all context of what I'm trying to do. So, fucking hell. It's exactly what I want, but it is still broken. I just can't. I can't even. This has been the entire process this whole time. Is you think you figured something out, and then just nope, it just doesn't work the way that you thought it did. So that's just full on broken if you ask me. Like there's no world where that works. And the oh no, I have no forward the domains. That's forward to the power. Okay, well then let's do it this way for now. Instagram account next. One tap. Like maybe I can figure that out later. But for now, like I got derailed once and I was like, oh, that's the path that we're gonna go down. And then it's like, nope, and now I'm derailed back to the original path and I'm disoriented by it. Okay, so we pass that back. Oh, look at that wonderfulness. So we took that code, we sent it up, and we have gotten a response with an access token and a user ID. Now, this is where things get just, all parts of this are fun. Okay, so we have step 2, exchange a code for a token. Now, what do you think you do with this token? If you said the answer is get another fucking token, you would be right. Why on earth? Couldn't tell you. Could not tell you. So yeah, you basically like have just made a request to the API and you just got an access token, and then you're like, just kidding, I need another one. I guess there's like some security argument for like, oh, but then they'd be creating an access token that's valid for 60 days every time you do this. Fine, sure. But I don't even know, man. So now we use that short-lived one to create a long-lived one. And then they're like, must be made in server-side code. I mean, that's like mildly interesting, but that implies that you could make a request for a short-lived token not in server-side code. But if you were doing that, you would be passing your client secret in not server-side code. So I don't know. I don't know what they're talking about. Blah, blah, blah. It's just such a random place to put that statement altogether. So now we send a get request to access token. And we do blah, blah, blah. Graph at Instagram. So let's try that. Make a get request to. See how well it does. Grant type, yep. Client secret, yep. I don't know why this bugs me, so I'm just gonna do it. I love that my client secret has just been sent to Claude. Okay, and now let's do that one more time. Not now, allow. Okay, so we sent it back, and now we have an access token that now has an expires in, which is roughly the 60 days. So great, that's what we wanted. We now have an access token that's going to last longer than an hour, which is obviously going to be important. I'm not going to deal with like data storage persistence or anything, but basically you would take that access token, store it however the heck that you want or need. Maybe what's important to show would be that we actually use it. And so, what was that example I gave? Fetch IG username. Let's see if it knows. I think that seems reasonable and good. So I used the wrong token though, so let's get that correct. Don't really need that anymore. And so what this should do is once I have logged in, token is valid Facebook docs. I might need to go back to that page to understand. Voila! We get a username and an ID for our person. Isn't that lovely? What are you possibly looking at? Token is valid. Oh, is it a typo? Oh! This guy's on his big screen, can see everything. I guess now that I maybe like a little larger would help even more. Yeah, refreshing is the thing that you would eventually need to do, but we don't really need to go over. Okay, so we now have an access token. Oh, there is still one more piece. Oh, I should have logged out the access token. Ugh. Okay, one more time around. Okay, so we should have this guy. So now this is the redirect callback, and now let's just make ourselves kind of so in reality, I would put these changes in the callback, but it'll just be faster for me to use a token that I already have. So let's call it setup. And TSX, and then remix route with setup button and action that, what do we want it to do? Creates or describes to Instagram Graph API webhook. Jumping way ahead. Let's see how well it can do. No, none of that is right. It specifically said Instagram Graph API. So I'm just going to nix all of that because that's just straight up wrong. Yep, goodbye. Intent, I don't, just none of that. No form data, just. Okay, so form, that's all fine and good. Set up Instagram webhook, sure. Okay. So now we should have I guess I call it setup. Perfect, okay. So here's where, again, things get fun and interesting. So the webhook we need, so there is no, and that's even just like further evidence of, you're like, okay, cool, like I want to send a message. So you'd be like, all right, maybe let's go to send messages. And you're like, how to show the message, blah, blah, blah. Have some expressions between customers and followers. Conversations can begin through their Instagram feed, posts, or mentions and other channels. When an Instagram user sends a message to your app user, an event is triggered and a webhook notification is sent to your webhook server. Okay, the notification contains the Instagram user's Instagram scoped ID, it just did it, and their message. Your app user can then your app user can use this information to respond. So basically, you can only respond if somebody has actually sent you a message in response to that. Assumes you have read the blah, 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 and implemented the needed components using this API, such as Instagram login for business. Yes, that's what we've done. We have our access token, and we have begun our webhook server, blah, blah, blah. You will need advanced access, standard access if your app service you own, manage, or have added to your app in the app dashboard. So that's how we're working. This would need that app approval. Okay, we have an access token. Give us the base URL, great. And then we can see the messages, sure. Following parameters, recipient message. So just like, this is not the way I would structure this information at all. Like this is not useful to me at all. Like what is message elements? I mean, you have to go somewhere else on the page to see this. Just who writes this documentation? They suck. Yeah, permissions. Okay, we have those permissions. Great. Webhook event subscriptions. So presumably these are the different ones you can attach to. Great. So to send a message that contains a text or a link, send a post request to this guy with the recipient parameter containing the Instagram scoped ID and the message parameter containing the text or link. Now here is where it's already kind of weird and jumbly, is Instagram scoped ID. Like this should just be the ID of the account. And technically speaking, as long as somebody has messaged you within 24 hours, you could send a message to that ID. The webhook makes that significantly more reasonable and convenient because you can actually see that the message came in, know that this magical 24-hour window has been opened that hasn't even been mentioned yet, and send a message. So I'm kind of wondering if there's a world where, no, I just don't know what my ID is, so we're gonna have to go it the other way. Those are just like the different variations. So instead, we'll start with the webhooks. So this is like the setup webhook subscription. So that's what we're going to do. Shows you how to subscribe webhook fields for Instagram professional account using your app. This allows you to receive real-time notifications when someone comments on media objects, blah, 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 using your app or when Instagram user sends a message to that Instagram professional account. Great, same bullshit of what's required. Let's see here. Endpoints, your apps, /me, fine. Usually, like if I'm not on stream, I'm like, this is already like far too many things I've had to read to attempt to get things sorted in my brain. And like, I know what I need to do, and I'm still like really struggling to like keep myself on the right track. Okay, so whatever, website server, customization, whatever. Okay, doesn't matter. Create an endpoint. So that's basically what we've already done. Okay, so verification requests. So anytime you configure the webhooks product in your app dashboard, we will get a get request send to your endpoint URL. Include the following query parameters. They will look something like this. So we're going to set up the webhook, and then they're going to pass this stuff along. And then we need to then validate that. And so they're going to pass in a verified token that we have given them. So we'll check that. And then we'll respond with the hub challenge to be like, oh, yes, that's correct. So, and this is where like all the documentation is like not, they're just not tied together well. You're like, okay, that makes sense. Now what the fuck do I do? You come here and you configure the webhook. So here you add a callback URL, and this is where we actually need the, if you could, can you see that? What is wrong with text? Just the whole bouncy bounce. I can't do anything without noticing things like that and just having my brain just totally distracted. Why is the text jumping up and down? It's okay. It's gonna be okay. Adam.ngram.sh. Instagram. Oh, I need to. I guess we already called the other one callback. We'll call this one webhook. This can be whatever you want. 234 is what I'm going to put it at. And I believe it doesn't really tell you this, but when you hit save, it's going to try and then be like, that didn't work. And you're like, what on earth? So it says, please provide a valid one. And what that really means is, despite not telling you anything, it's trying to verify it when you save it. So you're like, okay, cool, fine. So then we make it webhook.index and then route.tsx. Oh, I think it's a loader. So they're going to make a GET request, yeah, and then they're going to make a GET request with these parameters. So first thing I just want to see is, oh, interesting. Look at it knowing what I'm even doing. Okay. Log those out. Let's not even log them out. Let's just believe. Let's believe. So they just want us to respond with hub.challenge value. Let's see. Let's see what they're talking about. Save. No. Wonderful. So we try this again, blah, 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 Instagram webhook. Okay, so that seems like it is making a request. Content type was not one of multi-part form data, URL encoded. Oh, what do I do with that? What does that even mean? Loader async. I swear I've done this before. Oh, it's probably the request form data. So let's just nix all of that for now. No. And instead, oh, because it's not form data. Okay, let's change back. Pull params from URL, something like that. That seems better. And then now we return the challenge. What are they for? Subscribe, challenge. And I returned that challenge and you still didn't like it. So it's probably something like that I need because it's probably doing it as freaking JSON or something. Let's try that again. Success. Did it. Okay. So now we have a webhook that is verifying, validating correctly, whatever. You can control which webhooks you actually listen to, and this will just apply across the board. In our case, as far as I'm aware, we're only actually interested in these two. And especially if you're bringing on people that have a ton of things going on, I don't think you really want these things if you're not using them because you're just going to get a shitload of them, like messaging scene, like could be lots basically. Anyways, messages and comments, that's all we need. Done. Cool. Now, let's go back here. It's just like this whole process is just constantly like, okay, I did this thing, but now how do I get back to what I was doing before? But essentially what we need to do is kind of defined here. So dashboard will indicate whether your endpoint was validated the correct request quickly. If you're using the Graph API's app subscriptions endpoint, which is what we need to do, that's what we want. So all of a sudden now, again, I need to open up a whole new one now and be like, okay, what is this thing? App subscriptions. Return the subscriptions for that app. I feel like that's not. Webhooks for Instagram is not supported. I think that's because this is considered different. No, this is what happens every time I did this. Page ID subscribed apps, but we don't have a page. But we might just be able to do /me/subscribed apps. Parse the payload and respond. Okay, that's what we're gonna attempt. So we have the setup page. So when we click setup, what we want to do is make a, surely that's a post request. Request to subscribed apps. Sure. Just get us started. Use graph.instagram.com. Okay, so it's possible that we can just use their actual ID, but let's just try me because the the token will know who the person is. And then what I wanted to do, and I forgot to do, was snag that guy. And so we have yeah, and slap that in here. And subscribed fields, and then comments. Subscribed apps, blah, blah, blah. I don't know if that's gonna work, but we're gonna try it. Okay, subscription response, success, true. Okay, so as uneventful as that is, that has now set things up so that, let's maybe even add maybe we'll apply to the whole thing. Add a loader to get subscribed apps and display that in the UI, something like that. Perfect, subscribed apps, great. And yeah, that seems cool. So unnamed app, wonderful. So subscribed apps, blah, blah, blah. I'm curious what even. Cool, so we get an ID of the app and then the subscribe fields, 4046. Is that, what does that correspond to? Not a clue. Whatever, it doesn't matter. So just for funsies, display ID and subscribed fields. Wow, look how beautiful that looks. So that confirms that we have actually set it up. What I've always been interested in is if I click this a second time, does it make two? It unsubscribed it? No, you didn't. Subscribed apps API. As in the get one got called? Oh wow, it does not like being called multiple times, does it now? Okay. All I wanted to see was that it doesn't subscribe multiple times, it has only subscribed once. We are close. We are closing in. Okay, so now we have our webhook. And let's get back here. I imagine that this was going to be this difficult, but like now being an hour in, I'm like, oh, that took longer than I thought it would already. So we've got these webhooks for Instagram. That's not really what I want. This seems more like it. Yeah, okay. You will subscribe to search fields, blah, 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 blah. So I will get the request to my webhooks, and then I will get an object, and it's a post. So the loader like sets up that thing, but what we'll need is an action. That's no longer that. And log body, something like that. Okay. And now I'm already subscribed, so if, and I should be DevTails, so if I send a DM to that guy, give me a second. So I sent a message to DevTails. No route matches. Oh, this is going to be very confusing. Because that account is already connected to a totally different app that is going to hit a different route. Let me disconnect that, I guess. It's going to be difficult to capture this whole thing when I really do it. Blah-blah-dee-ba-da. So slow. Okay, so I'm going to remove that one. And okay, so now if I send a message, it should only go to the callback URL that I set up, hopefully. Okay, so I sent a message and I'm not seeing it actually call, which is great. I can figure out. Oh, there it is. Just yet another like step that you're like, oh yeah, of course. So I need to flip over to live. Even that description isn't correct. In development mode, your app can only request data from users with an app role. To request end user data, your app must have advanced access permissions. And that's just not true because I will be able to access my stuff in live mode. And then there's that guy, and you're like, okay, I need to put up a privacy URL. And so that's here, whatever. Let's see if it actually checks. So I've saved that. Flip to live. Maybe. I did click that. We are loading. Oh, yes, of course. Let's reload the entire thing. Okay. Okay, so we are now set to live. I will now send another message. Okay, why? There we go. That's what I'm looking for. I'm surprised that that is coming through. But it might be, oh, it's because I'm sending as MusicTales, who is connected to the other one. Doesn't matter. Little confusing, but we'll make do. So this webhook payload is what's coming through here. And so they're calling that, and you get this outer object, and then you get an entry, and then inside the entry is the messaging. And so then you're like, okay, cool, let's get the I mean, I guess first, if, nope, not at all, Instagram. So that's the first layer. We make sure that's the correct type. And then you're like, okay. And then, sure, yeah. Entry, and then it's messaging. And now let's see what that looks like. Do we still have that other page open? Why is that loading? Yeah. Okay, so we send another message. And we now see, cool, sender, recipient, timestamp, and the actual message with the text. So that's what I sent to. We're almost here. We are almost at the successful moment. So this sender ID is, I'm sending from my MusicTales account. Recipient is the DevTales account. The access token that I'm working with is the DevTales account. And so what we're going to do is we'll take that access token that we have, which I guess I'm going to have to steal back over here. Throw that here. In the action, we're like, okay, cool, we got an access token. And then we are going to send a message to the sender. So that's so we can reply to them. And I think that's kind of it. And so documentation wise, that's something like on this page. So you send endpoint is /me/messages, and then you're going to send recipient with the ID, and then the message with message elements, whatever that means, which is really just that. So that's basically what we're going to do. And so here we will do a make post to messages with text hello world. Okay, so we make the fetch, the messages, access token we're using, message hello world to the correct person. This just might work. And what we can do is, am I the right account this time? Yeah, I got a messages. We'll see. This first one was because my other one is attached to my Kaizen account, so I turned that off and I would start using a different message. So those are the ones I was testing to go through. And now I will send another message from here. And you can see me typing, and I hit hello. I send it. And of course, it's not going to work, because why would it? Yep. Oh, why? My guess, oh, that can't be right though. The sender shouldn't have to be a test user. Response data. Okay. Hey. Okay, now it responds. Jeeper creepers. I don't know if it just like hadn't reloaded the server or something. So we can see that. And that is the automated message replying to this message. We did it. 1 hour and 10 minutes. Okay. I kind of thought that might have gone faster, and then I would go through the meta stuff, but I think it's probably better that I don't, and I could just save that for a separate one. But basically, so now that worked, and that's great and grand. Um, but kind of the main problem is essentially that I keep on to move my screens over because I just realized that I've been looking at this other screen this entire time, but it's too bad. Hmm. My still remaining problem is how unenjoyable this step is. Like, I have mine saved, and that's not so bad. And there are some people that that's also not so bad for. But there are a shocking number of people who are logged into Instagram on their phone and have no clue what their password is, and it's definitely not saved. Um, and so there's that. I would love to get an understanding as to what even happens here. Like, what? Next OAuth authorize. Let's take your suggestion, and if we said let's port forward these params. Okay, you no longer know who I am, but that's kind of cheating. Can I hit login with Facebook here? That still loses them. Your account center. And then you're like, okay, you logged in with Instagram. You should have one type of account called Meta. So they do, but in order to use that, so that's basically like what I ended up doing. I'm not going to get into it because it's just going to take too much time. But basically, the next stage of things, what I ended up doing was uh, this Facebook login for business essentially allows you to connect via that Meta account, basically. And when you use that method of connection, it just like automatically knows who you are already logged into Facebook. So that will just get saved for another time. I think that's all I can mentally handle and rant in one day. But that was pretty good. What do we, that's code wise, whatever, like 50 lines of code there. Callbacks, another 50. Really, the setup stuff would actually get thrown into the callback right afterwards. So, and then all that disappears. So if I did this correctly and planned out, it would be like 150 lines of code. And then just like walking through all of the app UI stuff. Yeah. And then I think I just need to figure out how to like present that in a cohesive way because everything, like their documentation is so confusing that it makes how you present it confusing. Um, where I think I liked setting up the OAuth stuff first. So you click a button, you get logged in, you get a callback. That's great. I think if I planned better, I could just like one by one do each step of the callback and like focus less on bitching about the documentation and just provide the actual information. Because like talking through this step by step of like, okay, take the code, convert it to an Access token, and then take the Access token, make it long-lived, and then take the long-lived and subscribe to the webhook. That would all happen pretty quick. And then the webhook would just be the other piece of that, and that would also be reasonably quick. So I think there's a world to dial that in to like definitely under 10 minutes. Probably if I could do like 5, that would be a pretty good length for this actual tutorial. Cool. Well, let me commit that, and then I can use that as the basis for a blog post, and then I can make the blog post, and then it's easier to make the video once I have the blog post. Of IGDM. Cool. That is where I'm gonna cap it today. Thanks for watching me, and goodbye. I got nothing else.